All right. Kim's lesson is going to be on lessons learned from 2010. So we're going to turn the time over to Kim for the lesson.
Okay, well, part of it has to do with food storage, could you tell? Did you enjoy the food?
Yes.
And believe me, it was a surprise when I learned that wheat actually does taste okay. Okay, these are some of the things, some of the odd things that I just happened to pick up during the year, and I thought I'd share them with you. When a baker has a recipe, they weigh all their ingredients. And so my daughter, who went to culinary school, I said, why do they weigh their ingredients? She said, because a pound of flour is always a pound of flour. Doesn't that make sense? Okay, I learned my husband likes long hair, so I had to get mine cut. I prefer my hair short. That's how I found out he likes long hair. Okay, an Inca is actually a king, and it wasn't an entire race of people. If you're going to make bread, and you happen to be washing clothes, take your clothes out of the dryer, and while the dryer is still warm, you put your dough into the dryer, and it raises faster. I did not come up with that myself. That's the wonders of the internet. Potatoes were first grown in the Andes, and I'm telling you these things because this is what I learned when we went to Peru. And depending on which guide you talk to, Peru either has 300 or 3,000 varieties of potatoes. So, Idaho has nothing on Peru. Okay, and a very important thing I learned, you might notice I have a timer here, and it's set for 15 minutes. I learned that you can do anything you want in 15 minutes. What is it we usually say when we want to do something and we don't think we have enough time? Oh, I wish I had the time. Hasn't everybody in this room said that at least once in their life? Oh, I wish I could learn to do that. I wish I had the time. Get a timer. Get a cheap little timer from Target, Walmart, whatever, and start using it. I discovered that if I take my scriptures first thing in the morning and read for only 15 minutes, I can actually enjoy reading the scriptures. I don't feel like I have to read them. It's not a chore. And what I do is if I'm in the middle of a paragraph or in the middle of a chapter, I mark it. My friend Debbie Crandall said use a Post-it note and mark where you're at. And then if I want to, during the day, I can think about the things that I've been reading. And if I want to get back and study it, then I'll go do it on my time. But that 15 minutes is only for reading. If I want to mark scriptures, I've got a separate set. If I want to study the scriptures, I've got a separate set of scriptures. This is a clean pair of scriptures, and all I have to do is read it. That's all it's for. So I use my 15-minute timer. This is also great if you're like me and don't like to clean the bathrooms. You set a timer for 15 minutes. And what happens if you're done before the 15 minutes? You go back over what you've already done. By the time a week goes by, you've got a really super clean bathroom. Okay. This is great for anything in your life. We've all got 15 minutes. We just need to decide what we're going to pull that 15 minutes from. If we want to watch TV, 15 minutes less. If we want to read a book, 15 minutes less. We've all got the time. And I'm giving you all permission to take your 15 minutes and do what you want with it. That's one of the lessons that I learned. Now, another lesson that I learned was on preparedness. Now, I thought I knew a lot about preparedness, and actually, I do know a lot about preparedness. I have a year's worth of food in our basement. But guess what? Something happens, and I have no idea what to do with that year's worth of food. What do you do with the wheat? that's sitting there? Do you step on it and add water to it and suddenly it becomes something? No. So what I decided was, last February, I was going to start a blog. And I did this blog so it would give me an incentive to do something every week with my food storage. So I had my blog printed up, and this is all the things I've learned this past year. I had it printed up in here. And let's see, I've got another cucumber recipe for marinated cucumbers because we grew a garden. I canned cherries for the first time, and one of them had a blowout. First time that ever happened. I didn't know how to can. I didn't know how to make bread. Was the bread okay? Did you like that wheat bread? My husband said he wanted a wheat bread that was like Wonder Bread. Because that's the kind of bread he likes. So, let me tell you, all this year it's been a struggle for me to try and make a decent loaf of bread. I can't tell you how many bricks I have. I could build a house with the number of wheat bricks that I have. I had Whitney Kinney show me her method for making wheat bread. And I went home and got a pound of brick. I have gone through so many recipes until I came up with the right one. I personally didn't come up with it. I found it on the internet and did it. So this one is the one that works for me. But I feel good like I've accomplished something. I wanted to make a darn good loaf of bread that my husband would eat. And he says yes, he would actually eat it in an emergency. I also learned to make my own granola. I used to buy the granola in the store, and you know how expensive that is. Well, now I know exactly what goes into my granola. I use maple syrup to sweeten it, and I put in the kinds of dried fruit that I like to eat, not what somebody else thinks I might like to eat. And I put in the kinds of nuts that I like to eat, not what somebody else thinks I might like to eat. I also started using the powdered milk. Now, how many grew up on powdered milk? Okay, I never did. Nobody else in my family is powdered milk. And when I told my sister I was doing this, she said, "What are you doing that for?" Because there might come a time when we need to use powdered milk, and I want to know what to do. Now, I'm not going to say that I drink a lot of milk, because I don't drink milk anyway. But I do use it every day. I cook up wheat and mix that wheat in with my granola. So I do a week's worth of wheat, cooked up, keep it in the refrigerator, and mix that with the granola. And the granola has enough flavor to it that I use that non-fat milk on that cereal, and I don't taste it. I'm using it, right? I'm using it in cooking, because you don't taste it. You taste the finished product. But you're using the milk. I'm not going to sit there and drink a glass of that milk. I'll be honest with you, nobody that I know will sit there and drink that milk. And Lori, you grew up on it. Would you sit there and drink that milk now? No. So, apparently they've improved it. I don't know how bad it was before, but if this is the improved version, no thank you. I'm fine doing it just in my cereal. I also took this year to become proficient at learning how to can, freeze, and preserve. Now, like I said, I'm the only member of my family, and I didn't grow up with a mom who baked bread, who canned, who did anything. So I'm a real visual learner, so when I mention this to my husband, he goes out and he gets all the canning stuff and the pressure canner and says, "Look what we've got. What are we baking?" What are we baking? You know how that goes. Well, I've made all kinds of jams. I've made pickles. I've frozen fresh green beans and corn. I have learned how to use fruits in season when they're inexpensive. I learned how to make my own jam. That pineapple apricot jam has about half the amount of sugar in it than a regular jam. You can actually taste the fruit. Isn't that amazing? You actually taste the fruit, and you know there's no preservatives in it. I learned I can control the things that I eat. I don't have to go to a store and buy a thing of jam that has, 50% of the amount of sugar in it that I don't want. So I've kind of taken control of what I'm eating now and what I'm feeding my husband. And I think it's made a big difference. When we were in Utah this past summer, I was on KSL, which is kind of like their Craigslist, and somebody had fresh apricots. They were just giving them away free. So I said to Chris, "Oh, let's go get the apricots." Well, I must have come home with about 50 pounds of apricots. Literally 50 pounds of apricots. And when you see these immense things of apricots, I wonder, what am I going to do with it? So I go through the internet and find some recipes. And I never realized how much work it is to really get 50 pounds of apricots ready. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But I've got pineapple apricot jam. Did you like it? And my husband even takes it to work and it's good. So they like it. I've had a lot of people at his work say that they love the jalapeno jellies that I make. I make them in all different flavors. This one is blackberry. I've made strawberry. I've made just plain jalapeno jelly. And he brings this to work and serves it, and they love it. So I feel good that I learned a skill that I actually can use. I also learned how to can things in a pressure canner. I've made my own soups. I've canned chicken. How many of us have gone to Costco and gotten the canned chicken that you make, your chicken salad sandwiches out of? I took raw chicken, packed it in the glass jars, and pressure canned it. And then my husband tried it, and he says, "Well, this tastes just like the canned chicken." Duh. It is canned chicken. But I knew exactly what went in it. There was no salt, there was no preservatives. I knew what was in it, and it was a heck of a lot cheaper because I bought the chicken breast on sale. So I'm learning to become frugal at the same time I'm learning these skills. And I didn't plan on it, but, And I've gotten all kinds of books. When we go to Utah, I stop at the DI, all the DIs, we hit all the DIs on the way, and I go to the book section and find the books. Because apparently there's people in Utah that don't want to be using their food storage anymore. So I pick up the books.